A young girl floats face up in the river. Her lifeless hand drifts against the tangled branches nearby. She remains completely unresponsive in the rushing mountain current. The cold stream slowly washes over her still body. She just lies unconscious near the muddy river bank. Water continuously ripples past her utterly unmoving, silent form. Her head tilts back helplessly in the shallow water. Stranded in the stream, she shows absolutely no movement. The gentle tide pulls her further along the shore. She is stuck helplessly among the thick overhang roots. Her limp body drifts softly with the gentle pull, but she gets caught amidst the fallen leaves instead. The girl remains tragically trapped in the cold stream. Meanwhile, the main river flows violently past jagged rocks. Powerful white water churns through the deep rocky riverbed. Elsewhere, a grieving mother sits sadly with her toddler. She holds the little boy tightly on a boulder. They rest beside the very same dangerous, rushing river. She looks deeply distressed while clutching a small toy, wiping away her bitter tears as the river rushes. She hugs her surviving child closely in deep sorrow. The young toddler looks weary resting in her arms. She rocks him gently on the desolate, rocky river bank, overcome with sudden emotion by the crashing water's edge. Standing up abruptly, she bears a heavy, broken heart. She carries her young son, crying out in despair, wading bravely across the rocky, unevenly flooded stream crossing, navigating the slippery stones very carefully with her baby, moving cautiously through the freezing, fast ankle-deep current. Heavy mist rolls over the distant green mountain peaks. A thick fog blankets the dense jungle hills ominously. She continues wading barefoot across the wide, rapid stream. The tired child rests quietly against her wet chest, taking each slow step carefully against the strong flow, slowly making her way to the treacherous other side. Water splashes gently around her tired, mud-stained ankles, almost reaching the far riverbank with him securely held. Walking past the greenery overhang the fast rushing water, finally clearing the deepest section of the dangerous ford. Stepping through the rushing rapids on bare, weary legs. Water churns powerfully around her steady, highly determined feet. She finally arrives at a shore littered with toys. Looking down sorrowfully at the scattered plastic playthings, she spots the abandoned toy trucks right by the river, squatting down heavily to collect the sadly lost items, gathering the tiny toy vehicles left behind on shore, reaching for a blue dump truck among wet pebbles, placing the muddy plastic toys into a plastic bag, carefully bagging up every single little piece she finds. The quiet baby watches her collect the forgotten toys. Heartbroken, she pauses briefly to wipe her tearing eyes, crying softly while holding her surviving child extremely tight. She then picks up the last few toy cars, lifting her son back up to finally head home, wading back across the treacherous stream with the bag, trudging through the rushing, shallow river water once more, heading slowly toward their wooden house in the distance, carrying the heavy load of immense sorrow and toys, approaching the quiet village nestled deep in the valley. The gloomy mist continues to shroud the towering peaks. The dreary mountain weather reflects her immense internal grief. She reaches the muddy bank on the safer side. A rooster and hens forage peacefully near the water. They remain entirely oblivious to the quietly unfolding tragedy, hurrying up the muddy path toward their wooden cabin, approaching the rustic hillside home with the sleepy boy, stepping up onto the covered wooden porch very tiredly, rushing inside to finally lay the exhausted child down, gently placing him safely on the simple woven mat. She then prepares her mobile phone to call out, typing in the number of the local village militia, dialing for urgent help to find her missing daughter, raising the phone to her ear, weeping openly now, crying uncontrollably as she frantically explains the dire situation, begging the local officers to search the dangerous river, pleading tearfully with them to quickly find the girl. She soon hangs up the phone with a heavy heart, sitting helplessly beside her deeply sleeping young baby boy, gently stroking his small arm for a little comfort, touching his hand softly as he rests so peacefully, staring blankly ahead, completely consumed by fear and anxiety, waiting agonizingly for the rescue team to finally arrive. Meanwhile, the stream continues its violent and endless flow. Deep in the water, a small body is visible. The missing girl floats lifelessly in the raging current, just drifting face up in the murky, cold green river, unconscious and totally alone in the freezing mountain water. The river threatens to carry her much further downstream. Sunken deep in the current, she is completely unresponsive, submerged in the rapids, heavily battered by the flow. Her legs catch briefly in the rushing rocky shallows, stranded among the slippery stones of the rough riverbed. The heavy current continues to wash violently over her, stuck helplessly as the dangerous river water surges by. Back near the rice fields, roosters still roam calmly. The local militia finally arrives on a fast motorbike. Two female officers speed down the bumpy rocky road, racing toward the distressed family's house to help search, navigating the rough dirt trail deep into the valley, stopping the bike abruptly near the edge of woods, dismounting quickly to begin their urgent river rescue mission, running frantically through the tall green rice paddy terraces, sprinting across the fields toward the waiting, desperate mother, approaching the wooden cabin situated in the misty hills, rushing up to the open door to meet her. The mother points frantically toward the treacherous nearby stream, showing the officers exactly where the child went missing. The two officers sprint immediately toward the steep river bank, running along the rushing water with the panicked mother, leaping down into the thick river brush to search, wading straight into the knee-deep, fast-moving rocky current, pushing through the rapids without a single second thought, crossing the dangerous river to comb the opposite bank, splashing hurriedly through the rocky, unevenly flooded stream ford, point out the deep, hidden pools along the shoreline. The mother guides them toward the dense jungle overgrowth, checking the deep water beneath the low-hanging branches, wading into the murky depths near the fallen trees. One officer pushes aside tangled green vines to look, moving downstream, combing every single inch of the edge, scanning the bubbling surface as they fight the current, splashing forward, completely desperate to find the little girl, scrambling up the muddy bank to get better views, peering into a dark, debris-filled corner of broken bamboo, pulling apart the fallen stalks, hoping she is there. The mother desperately searches the tangled floating river debris, continuing to scour the thick, badly overgrown river edge, peeking carefully behind the dense leaves of the shoreline, wading deeper into the dark, heavily shadowed water spots. The relentless river rapids roar over the smooth boulders. Water surges dangerously through the extremely narrow rocky gaps. Just downstream, the little girl remains hopelessly stuck there, trapped against a large rock with water crashing around, lying entirely motionless as the stream engulfs her body, unconscious with her head resting heavily on a stone. completely vulnerable to the rushing, icy cold mountain river. The rescue team keeps fighting bravely through the water, searching under every single low-hanging green tree branch, wading through waist-deep current with extreme, urgent determination, spreading out completely to cover more of the river. A male officer finally joins, diving into the search, submerging himself to check the muddy, very murky depths, feeling around the totally unseen bottom for the child, poking a long bamboo stick into the deep holes, coming up for air after checking beneath massive roots, searching tirelessly despite the freezing, opaque brown river water, moving further down into the thickest, densest shoreline brush. The river water swirls intensely around the search area. Wild orange mushrooms grow silently on wet, damp wood. The mountain rapids continue to flow without any mercy. The mother scours the steep, deeply grassy riverbank, slipping into the deep water near the tall reeds, struggling through the rushing flow right by the shore, checking the tangled mess of sunken branches and debris. The officer pushes deep into the overgrown bamboo thicket, wading into a perilous pile of slippery sunken branches. The whole team combs the dangerous, snag-filled river waters, moving as a dedicated group to check every hideout, wading slowly through the deep, highly resistant river current, following the shoreline closely, hoping for an absolute miracle, exploring the dark, deeply rocky alcove near the bank, pushing wet foliage aside to look inside the cave, checking the deep, muddy hollows beneath the stone walls, diving right into the tangled roots of a tree, splashing through the dense debris where someone might snag. The mother desperately checks the completely submerged leafy branches, probing the deep, murky water with a long stick, searching the murky, dark edge under a massive log. The officer submerges entirely to check beneath the wood. The mother digs through the extremely thick shoreline vegetation, crawling through the deep mud and leaves in desperation, parting the dense, green bushes hanging over the water. The deep, swirling river pool reveals absolutely no clues, swimming across the deeper sections to check everywhere possible. The violent rapids boiling forcefully over the smooth stones. The mother struggles to stay afloat while searching tirelessly, splashing wildly, completely exhausted, but absolutely refusing to quit. The water flows fiercely, making the difficult search harder. Every second truly counts in the freezing, turbulent stream, moving carefully into a dense cluster of river plants, probing the deeply tangled roots with a thick branch, looking thoroughly behind every single bush along the riverbank, wading deeper into the treacherous, deeply muddy brown waters, using the long pole to check the invisible bottom, pushing hard through the thick mud and stubborn vines. The male officer also scours the flooded jungle edge, trudging bravely through the heavy resistance of the stream, checking the muddy, swirling waters right against the bank, diving completely under to meticulously search the submerged roots. The stream forcefully carries broken bamboo swiftly downriver. The rescue team keeps pushing forward, fighting the rapids, passing a visibly large rock outcropping near the shore, swimming right through the deep channels between the boulders, splashing heavily through the deeper pools, getting utterly soaked. The mother tightly ducks beneath an overhang of branches, pulling aside the wet foliage to thoroughly check shallows, probing the deeply leafy debris caught by the current. Exhausted, she drives herself through the thick river mud, wading waist deep in the murky, totally unyielding mountain stream. The male officer dives deeply into the narrow channel. Another officer swims underneath a low-hanging massive fallen tree, emerging from the messy debris, finding nothing but water, crawling desperately through the muddy, terribly overgrown shoreline brush. The relentless mountain water continues its fast, chaotic journey. The determined team moves steadily downstream along the bank, wading very cautiously under a canopy of green leaves, checking the very dark, deeply shaded areas near trees, working closely together to cover absolutely every possible spot, pushing floating wooden debris completely out of the path, struggling immensely against the incredibly strong pull of river, trying hard to maintain balance in the slippery rapids, continuing the absolutely grueling search as real hope fades, moving steadily past a thick grove of river bamboo, inspecting the very dense thicket overhang the deep water, scrambling carefully over slippery rocks beneath the bamboo grove, wading cautiously through the dangerously deep, shiny river bend, pulling themselves along the incredibly steep, muddy river bank, moving as a tight line to sweep the shoreline, sluggishly pulling through the thick, very resistant muddy water, swimming desperately through the much deeper, dangerous river channel, scrambling out of the deep pool, exhausted and drained. The violent water surges right onward, masking all secrets. The wooden family house sits quietly in the distance. Inside, the young boy remains deeply asleep, completely unaware, resting incredibly peacefully on the bed, safely out danger. The blanket lightly covers him while extreme tragedy unfolds. Dark, heavy clouds continue to loom over the mountains. The fog thickens significantly, casting a gloom over everything. The violent river rapids roar quite loudly, churning constantly. Downstream, the completely missing girl still lies entirely trapped, unconscious, her body caught extremely firmly between the rocks, the freezing cold water continually washing over her face, helpless against the absolute crushing force of the stream, drifting very slightly as the violent rapid currents batter. The water rushes incredibly forcefully through the rocky pass. Unrelated, a local woman happily harvests fresh bamboo shoots, chopping away at the thick stalks with a machete. She heavily carries a large woven basket on back, collecting the bamboo shoots completely unaware of the drowning, cutting a very tender sprout from the muddy earth. Deep in the lush mountain forest, the woman gathers her heavy harvest, carefully stepping down to the riverbank. She sets down her woven basket, completely unaware of the looming tragedy, sitting calmly by the rushing water. She starts peeling the fresh shoots. The task requires her full attention. Stripping the tough outer layers away, she swiftly chops the tender stalks, preparing them for her family's meal. Working diligently in the peaceful valley, the pile of clean shoots grows. Her morning chore is almost complete. While upstream, disaster suddenly strikes. Still busy with her bamboo harvest, she hears nothing over the rapids. The roaring current masks all sounds. Tragically, a young girl floats past, swept helplessly down the violent river. The woman continues her work, oblivious, finishing the very last tender shoot. She finally gathers her things together, turning to head back home. She suddenly spots the floating body. Panic sets in as she rushes forward, plunging into the deep cold water. She desperately grabs the limp child. Shaking her frantically, she screams for help, begging the little girl to wake. Struggling against the strong river current, she holds the small body tightly, hauling her toward the rocky shore. She carefully pulls her onto land. With all her remaining strength, she carries the child to safety. Laying her down, she starts CPR, pressing hard on her small chest. She desperately checks for a pulse, forcing her mouth open to clear water. She gently pats her pale cheeks, refusing to give up on her. She resumes the chest compressions urgently, praying the little girl will breathe. Turning her over, she hits her back, hoping to force the water out. But the child remains completely unresponsive. Knowing she must find help fast, she hoists the girl onto her back. The child's body hangs limply over her. She trudges exhaustedly along the bank, carrying the heavy burden with urgency. The girl's face is deathly pale, showing absolutely no signs of life. Unable to go further, she stops, gently lowering the child to the ground. She shakes her shoulders one more time, desperately pleading with her to wake. Touching her face, checking for breath. Miraculously, the little girl finally gasps. The woman immediately comforts the trembling child, reassuring her that she is safe now. She gently wipes mud from her hair. The girl looks around, completely confused, carefully helping her to stand up. The weak girl's legs suddenly collapse. She catches her before she falls, supporting the child's entire weight safely. She guides her to a large rock, letting her sit down and rest. She quickly retrieves her abandoned basket, strapping the bamboo harvest to her back. She returns to help the girl walk. Together, they slowly begin the journey home, wading carefully across the shallow stream. She holds the child very securely, guiding her over the slippery rocks. They head toward the distant village, slowly disappearing into the dense forest. Safe at last, but still recovering. Meanwhile, thick mist covers the mountains. The peaceful village seems completely undisturbed. Inside a house, a baby sleeps soundly, blissfully unaware of the recent tragedy. The river continues its relentless flow, rushing wildly through the dark valley. Downstream, panic has completely taken over. The girl's aunt is weeping hysterically, supported by two local village guards. Her legs can barely support her. They drag her through the water, helping the devastated woman back home. She is overcome with absolute grief, crying out desperately for her niece. They reach the shaded wooden porch, guiding the weeping woman to sit, gently sitting her on a small stool. The female guard tries to comfort her. She is terrified the girl drowned. The young guard speaks to her gently, explaining they need details to search. He steps away to get supplies, preparing to take an official report. Retrieving his notebook from a bag, he grabs his pen to write, opening the notebook on a stump. He gets ready to document everything. He asks for the missing child's name. The heartbroken aunt answers between sobs. He writes down her name carefully, recording the little girl's full identity, noting her age as 11 years old. Gathering the crucial details of disappearance, he asks what time she went missing. She disappeared in the late afternoon, while the aunt was away working. The pain of absence is overwhelming. Back inside, the baby sleeps soundly. And touched by the family's desperate crisis, the guard asks the aunt's name next. She tells him her name is Tone. She begs them to find her niece. The guard promises they will search. They will report to higher authorities. The search party will be organized soon. He finished writing his official report, finalizing the details of the missing person, noting the location and the time. He writes the date, August 11th. The report is now fully completed. They must begin searching the river. He tells her to stay strong, assuring her they will do everything. The guards stand up, ready to deploy. They leave the porch to start searching, heading out to find the missing girl. Walking quickly down the forest path, the village sits quietly in the mist, while the aunt is left alone, sobbing uncontrollably in fear and despair as the river flows menacingly past.